To briefly talk about two doctors that I believe should have led our pandemic team or have been on the team in the United States. These are Dr. J. Bhattacharya and Dr. Marty Mccary, both physicians with other degrees other than their medical degrees. For example, Dr. J. Bhattacharya has a PhD as well as a master's. He has a PhD, and then he also has, I believe, a master's in arts. He has specialties in epidemiology, does work in health economics especially. And then Dr. Marty Mccary is a surgeon and also has a master's of public health from Harvard University. Dr. Mccary has been on a few shows. You might have seen him around. And I'm going to share an example of where I believe that he could have helped us greatly as a nation, and still does. He's helping now, but it's just that if we had had more interaction with him in leading the pandemic, I think would have taken a different direction. So I'm bringing this up partly in case someone who watches this can maybe have them lead the next event that we face in our world. Because unfortunately, the reality is at some point, here and there in society, there will be situations where you might need people who might lead a charge, who are open and truthful, like people like Dr. Mccary. So it's not my desire, of course, that we have a health crisis at some point in history later down the road, but we see these trends where there will be things that happen from time to time. So quickly, let me give you one example where Dr. Mccary, I believe, was very helpful in explaining one way we could have done better with the pandemic. Dr. Mccary, earlier on, before Omicron and before we, because with Omicron, it's a little tricky, right? We were seeing it evade the vaccines. We're seeing it basically people getting reinfected who had COVID before. And we can have dialogue about, just the nature of the healthcare system right now and the struggles they're faced with. And please thank you to all those who are working hard and caring for patients at this time. COVID is real. I had COVID. I know about it. I'm not belittling that. What I'm concerned about is the policy we use in public, the public policy, the public health policy. And as one who has training in chemistry, medical physics, and philosophy, I am concerned as I watch how we are addressing this. I believe we need philosophers to get on board with helping with this, as I said in my other video. But here's what Dr. Mccary said earlier on. He said that when the vaccine came out, right around when it came out, and there was a shortage in terms of who could get vaccinated right away, he suggested that we leave those people with natural immunity alone and give the vaccine to others, especially those with comorbidities, those who are older, or those others who could get the vaccine then first, while those with natural immunity we know have some antibodies or some immunity to handle the situation. But I don't think we thought through that clearly in certain ways. As a matter of fact, there were many people in the science field who were not even taking natural immunity into account. One of the saddest realities of the whole COVID pandemic, I will say, is any hospital that fired any staff member who got COVID during the time we didn't have the vaccine and then decided not to get the vaccine immediately with plans of maybe getting it later and so on. But just the fact that that person was not given a chance based on natural immunity. Now, I'm not saying, and nobody's saying people should go out and get COVID deliberately. No, what I'm saying is those who had it that were then fired, even though some of them had antibodies and T-cell memory, those who had sort of protection, we've still, some hospitals fired those people. And that gets tricky because what's happening is it's not that they're fired necessarily because they're a threat or they can transmit a disease. Because back then, again, based on the data out of Israel, out of Qatar, some places that were doing studies on natural immunity, we know that people with natural immunity had protection. And it's just sad that we completely ignored that. We completely put that away. Many people did. I'm not saying everybody, but many people did. So how should we handle COVID at this point? Again, there are still situations of Delta. There are still situations of people in the hospital. I thank God that the Omicron variant is a milder strain. And again, sorry if you have loved ones who have it or who are suffering through the effect of it. But what I'm trying to say is, what policies should we take into account now? I believe people like Dr. J. Bhattacharya, Dr. Marty Mccary, Dr. John Campbell, who tries to provide his view in an objective way. All these people I listed, by the way, are vaccinated. So this video is not about saying that people should, that these people are not saying that the vaccines should not be talked about, okay? These three people I mentioned are vaccinated. What I'm trying to say is they have concerns about the policy. My friends, this is a day and age where common sense is being lost, and I hope that we can stand firm and think through issues and have dialogue with one another and be careful with facing the facts and not have wishful thinking, which some people are trying to have when they're when they're propagating messages like, yep, if somebody is vaccinated, then they're clear from transmission and stuff like that. That's just clearly not true, and we know that now. But the point is, let's be honest in our dialogue and in discussing the facts and the details. I'll end with this. I've listened and followed COVID details from March of 2020. I work in the hospital setting as a medical physicist. And one of the things I find interesting is that based on the 2 years of all the details, I almost feel like they need to have a master's in COVID studies. That needs to be a thing now. Master's in public policy of COVID studies. And I think that, those of us who have followed this from the beginning, maybe we should get a master's in that. And of course, I'm kind of joking, but for real, we have heard a lot and followed a lot on many levels. I've followed I've listened to about 5 different physicians quite regularly, looking at the science, looking at the data, looking at the details. And I can tell you, number one, let's not live in fear. Let us do our best to make the most of every day. Let us do our best to be wise, right, in how we live. But there's just so much hypocrisy in this COVID era. I'll just say that. There's so much hypocrisy. And we could go on and on with some of those discussions. I'll give you one example before I leave, just so you see what I mean. So for those who say that they have concerns about COVID, but then also want to go hang out in a setting, if they say they have concerns, but then they want to go hang out in a setting, in some concert, some indoor concert somewhere, or some event where they could get it, well, then why are they talking about it on their social media like they really care about it and they're really concerned about it when they then go on with their lives? We just need to be honest in how we respond to this. We need to stop trying to look good and please someone. The question now is, who are we even trying to please with some of the policies we have? Because I saw a video one time of a group of diplomats or people who work in government, and they were not wearing masks. They were about to take a picture, and then somehow when someone alerted them that, oh, it's time to take a picture, a lot of them then said, oh, we need to get our masks out. And this kind of things happen, right? That's just one example where it's like, we got to put the mask now so we look good. Looking good should not be the goal, of course. But anyways, so what should we do with COVID at this point? Again, not only should we be wise in how we deal with how we relate to it, we need to not live in fear, but we also need to make sure that we are staying healthy, that we are working to get healthier, getting our vitamins, eating healthy, exercising, doing the things we can do to be in top shape as best as we can in terms of our health being, in the condition it needs to be in. We need to be careful and work on our health quick. Let's get to work. I need to get to work, and I'm going to get a schedule down on exercising and everything. So my point is, we need to get our health in order as individuals. We need to be wise. Imagine if someone had COVID last month. Let's say they had the Omicron strain, and maybe they had Delta before that, and maybe they were vaccinated. Okay, let's say they were vaccinated, they got Delta, and now they had Omicron, they've recovered, and they come to your house. Some people, honestly, I'm telling you this, there are people out there who will probably still require those people to, wear a mask and this, that, and the other. But they had COVID, had Delta, had Omicron. Like, they are pretty good to go. But you see, we don't even distinguish that. Or looking at, okay, this person is young and healthy. Again, has it affected young and healthy people? Yes, it has. What I'm saying, though, is if we're going to treat everyone in a certain way on the same standard, when we don't all have the same health statistics, that is not the best way to do it either. And that's where Dr. J. Bhattacharya comes in. Dr. J. Bhattacharya talked about focus protection. And one of the things he emphasized was, again, those who are at high risk, we need to do our best to protect them. I had an idea for that back at the beginning of COVID, and I wish I said it. This was my idea. We needed to try and pay people who worked in nursing homes or people who work with older people. We needed to maybe pay them double, pay them a lot of money, and see those of them who are willing to volunteer to stay and work longer shifts. Maybe they can, maybe they can come with certain things they can do while the people are sleeping and so on. But basically stay for like a week-long shift rather than going home back and forth. Now, this might work better for those who are single, of course. Those who are married with children, it might get a little more difficult, especially, it can get tricky. So I'm just saying, imagine you had a single person who's 20 years old who decides, yes, I want to volunteer for this. Is this an option? And they stay for longer periods of time. I believe that doing that model would help because it will reduce the chance of the infection coming into the nursing home. I hope this helps. Those are two doctors we should look out for. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.